So, before we move on, what can you expect to take out of today's session? We're going to look at what makes people inspiring and how does that compare to you? How does that compare to me? We're going to look at how we don't need to change to inspire, because most of us believe that we do. And that really means unlocking the real person that sits within all of us. We're going to look at mind tactics. So what gets in the way? And I've seen some of the questions have already come in already on how do we actually control our minds in order to have the confidence to be more of ourselves and have that accepted by the people that we work with and for. And then we're going to look at action to inspire. So I want everybody listening in to come away from this webinar with a couple of really key action points that they can take back to work this afternoon to really inspire and bring out the best of themselves. So you'll see there's a nice picture of a sofa from our Discovery Centre here. That really is an indicator to relax. I would like you to grab some paper. I'm not doing all the work. You'll get so much more out of this webinar if you actually get some paper and a pen and complete the exercises that I'm going to talk through. And also getting involved in the polling. We're going to be polling throughout, and Hannah's talked through how to raise your hand throughout the session. We're going to be doing that, and we're going to use those results to take forward to the conference too, the IGD conference in September. So please participate and post questions as we go. So, Courageous Success, we're dedicated to transforming the way the world develops people, and we have a very simple philosophy. Very, very simple. It's the best person you can be is yourself, a very simple belief. And that when we bring the best of ourselves to work, we'll be and deliver at our optimum whilst helping others to do the same and be so much greater than perhaps we think we are. We have 3 missions, and I'm saying this because I want us to set the scene, and if you start to think about how you inspire others and what makes you the person that you are. We design and deliver what we call life-changing learning that transforms people and business performance. Almost 3/4 of the people we work with say that our approach has changed their lives. And just to keep you listening, we've had people say that short workshops have also changed their lives. So it's about understanding your perceptions. But this isn't about being fluffy. I've been profiled within each of my life. I've been on various hundreds probably in the time of my career of different training interventions and courses. And in my experience, very little of that impacted on the way I did my work or interacted with other people. And the same with teams that I've worked with. So we're all about delivery. So it's about having an impact on performance. And 85% impact is what our clients rate us as. We want to humanize the workplace. We support people to be the best they can be at work and develop them from the inside out so that we're much more resilient and using our natural strengths. And we believe that investment in people and culture should improve the bottom line. We measure impact. We have our own unique KPIs. 100% of our clients rate the impact of improving their performance as a manager or leader as over 85%. And hopefully you will start to personally feel some of that through today's webinar. So imagine then that you don't need to change in order to be more inspiring. You already are the best that you can be. You don't need to do anything differently or become anybody else to do that. The challenge is that most of us think that we do. And if you think about the way the world develops people right now, we all go to work and we have a job outline, a job description that has competencies and skills that we are rated against within our performance review process or annual review if we have one. And we get graded against those competencies and skills. And when we don't quite hit the mark, what happens is that we get some feedback, we might go on a training course, we might get some mentoring. What that whole model around the world says to us, you're not quite good enough as you are, but if you behave more like this, you'll be what we want. And so that, along with our own beliefs and perceptions of who we should be in order to be inspiring, has a huge impact because we all feel like we need to change. We're not quite good enough. It causes all kinds of problems in us because we start to doubt ourselves. So what we want to do is to think about then moving the job outline to one side. We need it for calibration and for clarity, but you already are the best person you can be. The challenge is that you're not being that person fully at work for lots of different reasons. And what we do, and what we're going to start to explore in this webinar, is helping you to understand who you really are, and how to be the best of that person, at the same time as helping you to have the confidence to do a better job by being the best of you. And then what happens naturally, we know, because of our research and KPIs, if you bring those competencies and skills back and that job outline back, naturally we're hitting higher levels of those skills and competencies, but not because we're talking through some kind of old-fashioned training model or leadership direction or approach, but because we're being the best of ourselves. So we need to have a look then at what's stopping us from being that now. And I've withheld this slide because it's the one slide in this whole webinar that's absolutely covered in words. Okay, so as soon as it comes up, what I'd like you to do is just look at the left-hand side. Okay. Oh, there you go. It's actually on a build. I didn't realise that. Okay, so by the end of it, it'll be filled with lots of words. The challenge that we all have is that we're on a human journey. And what we know is it doesn't matter whether you're the chief exec or whether you're the line leader in a factory or a supervisor in a supermarket, you're a commercial manager, an accounts manager, an accountant, all of us have the same journey on the inside. We think it's just us, but it's not. It's all of us. We all want to fit in, we all want to be liked, and we all want to succeed. And what we tend to do is borrow and adapt our behaviour to fit the mould. We'll look outside of ourselves for recognition and results to feel good enough, and basically become the person we believe is required to be good enough, and rely on outside influences for our self-confidence. We'll put ourselves on quite a pedestal, and the expectations of others and our environment and our managers and our leaders really promote that feeling that we need to be greater, if you like, than we are now. And the challenge is that that has a result. And the result is that all of us doubt ourselves at a fundamental level. It never ceases to surprise us at Creative Success when we do workshops, how people are surprised that it's not just them. All of us are making it up as we go along. We all think we're going to get found out. All of us are conscious about how people are perceiving us. And so we become quite self-conscious. And self-consciousness is one of the biggest challenges to being inspiring, because we start to change and hide our behaviour. We can become triggered by negative behaviour in others if people don't behave the way we think they should behave, and we can always become challenging ourselves. Stress reduces our well-being. We tend to conform and compare, and we use what we call strategies, coping mechanisms. We create a persona in order to fit in and be liked. And a brilliant example of a really extreme persona would be a telephone voice. You know, where you get those people ringing you up at home or at work, and you know, they've got this very kind of scripted voice. That BBC voice is another good example of it. So if you think about how we work around the world, be more like this and you'll be what we want. What we're doing is driving this cycle of doubt and change within all of us that restricts us. So what we need to do is actually believe that we already are the best we can be, and I'm going to show you some of that. We'll not be being that person for lots of reasons, and what Creative Success does is help people to free themselves from these self-imposed restrictions, because we think that this journey is happening to us. Actually, it's not. We're doing it to ourselves. We're just often not aware of it. And we do that by helping you, and I'm going to do some of that today, to understand who you really are at heart, so that we promote natural, authentic behaviour so that people are much more confident. And what we find is that people will discard the habits and journeys and strategies that aren't beneficial. And some of you will start to shake some of that off, even within the next 45 minutes. You'll feel a greater sense of strength and belief and resilience. And much less emphasis on yourself. We tend to make everything about us. And you'll be able to promote and look at others and lead in a way that is for the greater good, up courageousness, and actually boost natural people skills, which have an impact on all those around you. So there's a journey, in summary, that we all go on, and that journey's here. So here's us, and at the centre of us we've got the real us. If you say to somebody, who are you, they'll say, well, this is where I live, this is what I do for a living, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at. Actually, all of that's in your head. Who you really are is in your heart, and you'll be the same person at 5, 35, 95. And old people know that because they're in their 80s, they still feel the same as when they were 17. And it's that person that's the real you, okay? So there's areas at the heart of our success. We call that our I am values. What happens then is we have limiting mind tactics. strategies, what we call gates, in other words, we will close if certain behaviours aren't perceived in our surroundings. We'll have success models, in other words, we'll just carry on with what always has worked, and that might stop us from actually being inspiring in a new way. There'll be habits, we'll give our power away to others in our environment. In other words, we'll let things affect our mood, and we can be quite negative even if we aren't aware of that impact. So we have this persona. What we need to do is use our own power to unlock, using positive mind tactics, the real us, which is all about having more self-confidence, choosing to have confidence, keeping our power, in other words, having that control over our emotional response, because that is in our control. Nobody can force you to be negative or cross or upset. We do it to ourselves. And also aspects of goodness and positivity and openness that naturally then create a behaviour that is natural in action. And if we apply that to, this says leadership here, but really any interaction in relationships, what happens is that we become much more charismatic and much more natural and much more ourselves, and people see and experience that. So I've put in some statistics from the latest CIPD survey on job satisfaction, because it's really quite surprising and quite shocking. Job satisfaction has dropped to its lowest level for over 2 years, and almost a quarter of us are actually looking and seeking a new job, which for me is enormous. And even building on that, 34% of us disagree that their organisation inspires the very best of them in the way of job performance. I just want to make a point about this. What we tend to do is rely on others in our environment to feel inspired. Actually, what we need to do is take accountability for inspiring ourselves, and then naturally what will happen is we'll inspire others around us. So 98% of the people that we support doubt themselves. So it's really quite a shocking statistic. And what I want to do is just have a quick hands up if you agree that I have times when I doubt myself. So hands up, and we can see your percentages on screen. So please, if you're not polling, please poll, because it will affect the percentages. Okay, so I have times when I doubt myself. Brilliant. Okay, so that's come out as coming up to 71%, hands raised, 70%, so solid 70% now on the screen of us have times when we doubt ourselves. One of the things that we do is help people to understand who they really are at heart, and we use an online tool called I Am, which I can talk about later on if we have time. We took a random selection of 50 I Am questionnaires, nameless or completely confidential information, took those, 70% of people used words like worrier and lacking confidence and I'm oversensitive and I'm insecure. We're not alone, and it's these things that hold us back from being inspiring. So I want to do a second poll, and the poll's at the bottom of the screen. Put your hands up if you agree that you're one of the 70%. Okay? So you in your head, you might not externalize it, but if internally you think you're an overthinker or a worrier, or you lack confidence at times, or you're sensitive or oversensitive or insecure, that would be great. Brilliant, and the number's still going up, so if you could poll, it'd be great, because it'll affect the percentages, and we'll capture that. Okay, so we're at 64%, so a huge percentage of us actually doubt ourselves, and it's these things we've got to deal with, along with being the best of ourselves, in order to be more inspiring. So I just want you to have a look at these pictures on screen, because we kind of have what we call a pedestal. So we think to be inspiring we have to be great. What I want you to see, and we're just going to explore now, is that actually you already are inspiring exactly as you are. So just taking some of these on screen, I want to inspire people. I want someone to look at me and say, because of you I didn't give up. Now my belief is that all of us could adhere to that phrase. We don't have to be the CEO or the leader of a large group of people to help those around us to believe and keep going and be persistent when they feel like giving up. Be strong, you never know who you are inspiring. I think often we're unaware of the impact that actually we're having on other people and how at times we can be incredibly inspiring just by being ourselves. And then top right, I love this, you don't need to be like all the others. I think if you think about inspiring people in your world, which I'm going to ask you to do in a second, actually a lot of those people, you know, they're inspiring because they're quite happy in their own skin. You know, they don't feel like they have to conform and be like everybody else. They have character traits that they're happy to just live and be because of their confidence letting them. And then finally, don't be ashamed of your story. It will inspire others. There are very simple things that inspire me constantly about other people because of their story. And you don't have to have sailed around the world or catapulted yourself to the moon in order to have a story. It's often just how you've coped with different scenarios and your thoughts about, your opinions about certain things, your attitude and how maybe you choose to be positive and not give up and see things through, that actually will inspire others. So just to sort of start thinking about how you actually naturally will be inspiring people, perhaps even if you're not conscious of it. Oh, hang on a second, the slides have just changed. There you go. Okay, so what I would like you to do is think about somebody that inspires you. And I want you to imagine that person in your mind's eye. It doesn't matter who they are. It might be somebody that you work for. It might be somebody you work with. It might be somebody in your family. It might be somebody on the television, a sports star. Could be a politician. Anybody at all. I just want you to think somebody that inspires you to greater effort. And what I want you to do is grab that pen and that piece of paper, and I want you to write down 3, 4 things about their behaviours that make them inspiring. And there are some examples of them on screen. And when you've done 3 or 4, I want you to give me a quick hands up. Gosh, some of you can write fast. Think about what kind of behaviours they have. What is it about them that you like being with them? And then when you've done, just press the hands up so you can see. Okay, so when you've done, and a lot of you are, some of you well done, keep going, keep putting hands up. We can see almost 3/4 of you now done a hands up. Well done, brilliant. I want you to look at those behaviours and give yourself a score out of 10 for how much you are like those things and what's on the screen here if you want to, out of 10 at work. So when you're at work, out of 10, how much am I being like this? How much am I like this? So you take what's on the screen now. How caring am I? How positive? How much do I show people I believe in them? How much do I try to help? How strong, open and charismatic am I? Give yourself a score out of 10. Okay. Now when you see yourselves outside of work, so forget work, be nice on a day like this, nice and hot, go down to the swimming pool, the sports field, or the pub, dare I say it, and go and actually relax with the people that you know. So you're outside of work, picture yourself in a scenario where you're with other people and you're outside of the work environment. Now look at that list again and give yourselves a score out of 10 for how much you're being like that outside of work in that environment. Out of 10, with 10 being yes, I'm always positive, I'm always confident in my opinion. Okay, or at times. So what that should do, if you look at your scores, is give you a flavour of how inspiring you already think you are. Now, because we're in a webinar format, I can't see you, but most people, when we ask them the next question, they say outside of work. Where's your highest score? The majority of people that we work with, normally over 85%, say that they are more inspiring, their score is higher outside of work than inside of work. Some of us, our score is higher inside of work. Mine often is, and that is because we find a role at work. We find a way of being at work. And for some of us, actually, we actually take on a persona to be more like that. But if we're not being like that, and our score is actually higher outside of work, what's happening is that we're relying on our comfort zone to be ourselves, okay? So if your scores are generally reasonably high, 6 or above, and they're outside of work, what we need to do is help you to unlock more of you, to be more confident in you and bring that inspiring person to work. So in other words, you already are inspiring. If your scores are low in general, you just need to work on your confidence, okay? So that's where you need to really focus on confidence to bring those scores up. So have a look at this then. Most of us have shoulds around being inspiring. We think we should be X, Y, and Z. And what I'd like you to do, again, with your pen and paper, is just make a quick note of one of your shoulds, okay? What are your shoulds? I've put some examples on here. I should be funny and humorous. I should be charismatic. I should be totally dedicated, it says on here. I should be strong and resilient. Left-hand side. What are your shoulds? Who should you be in order to be inspiring? What we tend to do is put inspiring people on a pedestal and then think it's beyond us. And so we stay low, and that means we're not as courageous, we're not as open, we're not as naturally ourselves. And it's those things that make us more inspiring. So you'll see on the right-hand side, words that describe me at my best. What are yours? What are your unique selling points? What makes you you? At heart, the real you. I'm quite adventurous, I'm quite rebellious, but I'm also very positive and very kind-hearted and soft-hearted. What are you? And I want you to write down at least 8 words that describe you at your best. And when you have, if it's all right with the guys here, I'd just like us to do a hands up so I can see where you are. Okay, so 8 words. When you think about the real you, the you that had the highest scores, which are normally outside of work, okay, at least 8 words. And when you've written 8 words, what I'd like you to do is just do a hands up. What you're doing is you're describing the natural self, the natural you. And it's these words, these behaviours, because they're natural and you, that will inspire. They become your strengths. Your personal brand is another way of looking at it. Great. So please poll, hands up, when you've got a list of at least 8 of these things. These behaviours, values. Brilliant. Okay, good. So hopefully you've got a good list. We've got about 60-65% now coming in, so keep going, and please, if you could stop raising, that's good, because we know that you're there. Great. Because we want to do another poll. So if you're going to be the best person you can be, you've got to understand who you are and what makes you you. And those 8 or so words that you've just written down describe the unique you. You might choose to judge that that's not, and we're going to move on to that. We know, and we do lots of research around this, that inspiring people are naturally authentic. And what I want to do is just do a quick poll question 1. Please put your hands up if you agree that inspiring people are naturally authentic. we'll just give it a minute, because I think there's so many of you that the system just takes a second to register all the hands up. Okay, good. So we've got a result. Oh, God, still going, still going. Okay, so quick hands up if you believe that inspiring people are naturally authentic. Great. Okay, so 67% is the result that we've got. Fantastic. Good. Thank you for polling, because it's fascinating. So second poll then, so what I'd like you to do is I answer this question. I consciously use the authentic me to inspire others at work. And I want you to put your hands up if you agree with that. So if you think about who you are, how much do you consciously use you to inspire others at work, the real you, without mask, without persona? And put your hands up if you agree that you use the authentic you to inspire others at work. Okay, so this tells us something, doesn't it? Because we've rounded on 31%. So 31% of us consciously use the best of ourselves, our authenticity, to inspire others at work. And yet at the same time, we believe that inspiring people are naturally authentic. So what's getting in the way? What's the gap? I'm happy for you to send us questions as we go through on what's creating that gap. But I now want to explore that, okay? The challenge is that many of us get unknowingly contained within habits and routines that can take the best out of us. Okay? Most of us actually are unconscious almost, a bit like when we drive the car, we'll get to the end of our day and we've not been conscious of how we've behaved, how much we've thought about ourselves, how self-aware we are, how much we're blaming others for what we're feeling, how we're relying on the people around us to make us feel good rather than ourselves. And these things create habits and routines. If you think about all the different places that you've worked and all the people that you've worked for and with, those interactions and those cultures and environments have created habits and routines. And we know through neuroscience that these things stick and become habits. So we need to look at unlocking all of us, because we already are inspiring. The challenge is it's the head that gets in the way, as illustrated by this lovely slide, the restricted me. So, you know, there are things in our heads that stop us from being the best of ourselves. And it's these things that 69% of us listening today have got controlling us to a certain extent, which stop us, as well as choice, from being our natural self, to be authentic, to inspire other people. We all doubt ourselves at a fundamental level. We're also going to get found out, as I've already explored. We have, top left, beliefs that limit our abilities. We think we're not as confident as people think we are. We worry what people think about us. You know, we might think we're not interesting or intelligent, so we don't interact, we'll hold back. But at the same time, we might push ourselves outwards, even if we are insecure, to kind of make ourselves look interesting. And this is where we start to get personas. You know, we'll start to impress and use what we call strategies to be liked and succeed. So we almost can have, some of us, a whole persona around who we want other people to see. But also we use control. You know, one of the biggest strategies that we find is control. If I make copious lists and keep hold of everything and never delegate, then I'll never actually fail. Prove it is another one. One of the most annoying strategies that a lot of people have within business is prove it to me and then we'll interact and talk. So we have these strategies that become part of our way of being. Often start to become habits, so we don't even know that they're there, and we just think that's us. We need to also have personas, so we become the person we think we've learned to be or think that I should be. So we all think we should be funny and clever and knowledgeable and creative and analytical and all those different things. We can't possibly all be those things all of the time, and when we think we're not being our pedestal, as we call it, then we start to doubt ourselves, and that knocks our confidence, and the minute we do that, we start to restrict ourselves and hold the real us back. And then we give our power away. It's not my fault. It shouldn't be like that. You know, we expect the people around us to be positive and to inspire us. And if they don't, then again, we start to get cross and frustrated and give our power away. So one of the things that I've just naughtily slotted into this slide is a conformist score, rating scale, because we know from the work that we do with people in the workplace that one of the biggest challenges to being the best of ourselves at work and more inspiring is to conform. So we let the world around us dictate for us how we should be and don't push back. Okay? And when I say push back, I of course mean positive pushback rather than negative pushback. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see the conformist scale. What I want you to do, please, is to give yourself a score on the rebel versus conformist for you in your workplace. And when you've done that, raise your hands. Conformity is one of the biggest challenges that we have. And so what happens, and what you want you to think about with that score now as we move forward is what needs to happen in order for us to move beyond conformity into more open interaction. This is rebellion, okay? So I want to do another poll. I want to look at what gives us confidence, the confidence to not conform, if you like, the confidence to be the best of ourselves. And we've given what we believe and our clients tell us their top three things that give us behaviours that give them confidence in the workplace. The first is recognition, being told, pat on the back. The second is control and planning. I know what I need to be doing, therefore I feel in for control, therefore I feel confident. And the third one is support from others. It might be support from a team of people around you that you have faith in, that you're comfortable and confident with, or it might be your managers and leaders that you're confident with. So what I would like you to do is to poll now and to rate which of the three, A, recognition, B, control and planning, C, support from others, is your number one. What gives you confidence? Okay, so there's no surprises for me here. Number one, of course, is recognition. So 56% of you chose that recognition is your number one need, if you like, for what gives us confidence. Second is always, yes, control and planning. If we can have all of that in our control, then we'll feel confident. And then support from others, and often, you know, it's from others above us. Fantastic. Okay, so let's explore that then. What gives us confidence? What I'd like you to do, and we'll do a hands up again in a second, is I want you to write down what gives you confidence. So we've already said recognition, control and planning, support from others. Write down 4 or 5 other things that gives you confidence at work, because the minute we're confident, we start to let go. And when we let go of our self-consciousness, we start to be more authentic. When we are more authentic, we are more ourselves, and then when we're more ourselves, we're more inspiring. And when you've got your little list, I'd like you to hands up. The temperature's gone up to 31.5 in here, so I'm just going to have a drink. So pop your hands up when you've listed a couple more things that give you confidence, because it's really going to help your self-awareness, more consciousness of what gives you confidence. Okay, so if you just hands up when you've got your little list for us. I'm going to put this next slide on because it's got some examples as well. So we've got positive feedback, having a strong team, knowing my stuff, appearance. That new dress, that new shirt always makes you feel great, doesn't it, for the first time, and then you wash it and it gets hung up in the wardrobe, and then it just becomes the shirt or the dress rather than the new one that gave you confidence. Good. Okay, so the majority of you have hands up. That's great. Thank you. You should have a list now of some of the things that you rely on to give you confidence. So if you look at what's on here, what I want you to recognise, for the majority of us, we rely on external things to give us confidence, and we call this an external confidence strategy. So we wait to have that recognition and feedback. That gives us confidence. Or we just, get fueled by it. Knowing our stuff, achieving things, getting that promotion, being supported, working with people we know, knowing people we trust, having that strong team. The challenge with these things is they're all great, and we're encouraged at work to do them as leaders and managers for other people, like the feedback and the recognition. But if they don't appear for us, or they don't exist when we most need them, the problem is we can get knocked. And that knock can really have an impact on our confidence. And so what we need to do is actually go more from an external confidence strategy to an internal confidence strategy. So let's just do a quick hands up. The poll says, hands up if I have a predominantly external confidence strategy. So hands up if you agree that the majority of your confidence is coming from external things from you, rather than you generally having faith in yourself. So how many of you are relying on recognition, having a strong team, having people that you know, the knowledge that you've got, external confidence strategies? And if your hands up, if you agree with that statement, I have a predominantly external confidence strategy, that would be great. And as soon as the percentages stop, I think it hit 60, didn't it? Okay, so 60% of us listening have an external confidence strategy that we need to reflect on and turn around. Okay, so how many of you now, I'm going to do another quick poll, will now, on reflection, because we could do hours, although I'm not sure I could do hours in this heat today, but we could do hours of work looking at confidence. How many of you, from just that awareness, will now look to switch from an internal to an internal confidence strategy, and have less reliance on external confidence strategies? In other words, I'm going to start believing in me. I'm going to start recognizing that I already am inspiring, and I'm going to start to reflect perhaps on not relying on externals for my confidence, but explore other ways of being confident so that I can be more of myself. So hands up if you feel like you want to change and do something to reverse that external confidence strategy. Hands up if you want to do something to reverse that. Okay. So that's 55% of us want to do something about it. So we restrict ourselves, and we're not going to do this exercise because on today's webinar we don't have time, but one of the key questions that we've had come through is, what kills inspiration? Which I think is a really good question. What kills inspiration? And what my response to that is us, if you like. We can all behave in a way that is uninspiring. And we kind of can make as many excuses as we want, but actually inspiration generally starts with us. And on here, and obviously you're going to get the slides afterwards, it's worth reflecting on how you behave in different scenarios in a way that actually might be inauthentic and actually might actually be quite challenging and certainly not inspiring. So for example, how do you behave when you're faced with people? This says, I don't like or respect, what do I do? So some of my answers on here, I might speak less, I might ignore it, or just keep it to business talk. I might get self-conscious. How do I behave if I'm bored? Okay, what do I do if I try to fit in with people I don't know? Okay. How do I behave if I'm irritated or frustrated? Because these are the things that people can start to see that can remove inspiration from you. So if you take the time following this webinar to just have a look at some of those questions and look at what might actually change within you to be more of the best of you, you'll start to become more inspiring. So another question that I had ahead of the webinar from one of you was, can I have some tips to inspire, please? So I've listed some for you here. The first one is choose to not conform in personality. Be the real you, your energized and softer self. We're all big softies, and we totally underestimate when we bring those softer parts of ourselves to work, actually how inspiring that can be. Be courageous. Force yourself to believe in yourself with an internal confidence strategy. You can choose to work and feel confident. No martyring. Don't let challenge paralyze you. Keep your power and emotions in check. These are all things within our control. I know from the work that we do where people feel that they can't control their emotions and can't stop other people affecting their moods, but you definitely can. Second, the third one on there is show people that you like them. You know, if there's one thing that you can change right now to inspire the people around them, it's to show appreciation and show people that you like them. Make circumstances less about you and work for the greater good. Give more than you get in return. Keep your ego and need for recognition in check. Stop making it about you. Number 4, be positive and see the best in others, especially when they don't see it in themselves. If you can believe more in other people than they believe in themselves and show them that, you will naturally be more inspiring. And then finally, I've said find the cause to believe in. It could be an enormous, great, big cause, or it could be just a simple purpose in what you're doing. Hold that vision up for others to help them, and that will really galvanize your energy too, so that you feel that you can kind of lead that charge, whether that's a big charge or just a little stroll and walk. Okay, so what I want you to do then, before we move to questions, is I want you to write down 3 actions that you're going to take to be more inspiring from now. And when you've done that, let's do a hands up. Just telling you how to reset the hands up. That's it. Okay, 3 things you're going to change. And while you do that, I'm going to have a look at these questions. Okay, so don't forget, quick hands up, because we'll move straight to questions once you've had a chance just to write down a couple of action steps. Okay. So I'm just going to take a couple of these questions before then closing and just talking about way forward. I've got one here. What if you're an introvert in a company that recognises extroverted behaviour? My answer to that is look around you. Everybody is introverted. They might not be showing it. Some of us have a mask that's really well honed. You may feel introverted while others look extroverted, but from the work that we do, we know that even the most extroverted people, in fact, often the most extroverted people are the people that are doubting themselves the most, and their strategy just happens to be, I'm going to be social and interact, but they'll likely go home just like you and doubt themselves at the end of the day. I'll take this one here. So I've got another one here. You have said cultures and environments create habits. I have been with one company all my life. How would somebody get different experiences without leaving? I think this is really interesting. My question here is, do you need to change? So if you feel like your culture and environment in this one company is restricting you, then it's worth exploring elsewhere, just going and doing some job shadowing or talking to friends and family about other environments. But for me, whoever asked this question, I would say it depends on where you rated yourself on the conformity scale. If you rated yourself as a conformist but you don't want to conform, then it's worth exploring, you know, but I guess as well it depends on the culture and the environment that you're in. Okay, so can you say more about martyring and giving away power? Okay, really quick exercise. Imagine somebody you don't want to see right now. You might be looking at them because you might be at your desk. But imagine somebody you wouldn't want to see right now. It could be somebody inside of work, outside of work. We can generally think of somebody. It might even be a politician with all of the changes that have been happening here in the UK. Okay, so imagine that person in your mind's eye. Now, imagine that that person walked up to your desk or your office or wherever you're sat right now. Okay, walked up to you. What would happen to you? What would change? Okay, most of us would get cross, or we'd retreat, or we'd get angry, or we'd get irritated. Okay, we might just close completely. We might get furious. And ask yourself, actually, who's making you cross and furious and angry and irritated? And the answer is you. You're doing that, and it's a bit like, you know, nobody can take that power away from you. You have the power to choose your emotional response. You get up in the morning and you fall over your bedside table and you stub your toe, and you're hopping around your bedroom. Stupid table, stupid table. The table didn't move, but you still blame the table. Okay, this is your power. So when it comes to martyring and giving power away, we work with a lot of people who have got themselves into a habitual drama strategy, fueling drama within the workplace and gossip and creating mountains out of molehills. It's all totally within your power to reverse. And if you're work with people that are like that, what you need to do is help them to be more positive by not getting involved and staying positive yourself. Okay, so I'm going to just do quickly one more that I've got here because there's loads. What question is, what's the best way to start believing in yourself and how to be confident? It's actually incredibly simple. You have to actually choose to believe in you. It has to start with you, because as you've seen, if you rely on your environment or your success or the people from actually to give you confidence, then you'll always be reliant on those externals. So you have to decide, I'm going to start having confidence in myself. What you then need to do is help yourself to actually be more conscious of that throughout your day. Choose to be more positive about yourself. As soon as you start to think negatively about yourself, consciously change that, and then write down 4 or 5 really positive things about yourself. Okay, so you might be a really good listener. You might be actually really fantastic at analytical stuff and spreadsheets. You might be really kind. And often it's where you have your highest score in terms of inspiring that you should think about in those scenarios, and then keep those positive beliefs to hand, and the minute you doubt yourself, then just go to them and recognize them. Okay, so there's loads. I'm really sorry that I can't get to all the questions because I've got post-its all around me, but I'm going to start to get nagged if I don't keep going. So I just want to talk about the Leading Edge Annual Conference. I'm going to be there with our Director of Development, Courageous Success, Nikki Hayworth. We're going to be talking about courageous growth mindset. And I want to give you a really quick flavour of it because it continues to build on the theme that we've been doing here. It's a completely free annual conference, and I just want to say I'm not being paid by the 2 ladies in this room with me to plug this. I think what the IGD do with their conferences and their workshops is fantastic. So I really encourage people, if you want to move this forward, come to the conference in London on the 8th of September. So I want to just hold up some stats, some research about grit and courage, because that's what we're going to be talking about. This is some research that's come out of Pennsylvania University in the United States, and the impact is that grit is being proven to make a greater impact than talent or intelligence. So you don't have to be the most talented person or the most intelligent person to actually have a really great impact in your life and in your work. Grit is one thing that can make a real difference. 2 quantities were tested as a predictor of outstanding achievement. The first was a tendency to not abandon tasks for novelty or change, because that's what we tend to do. We get bored, so we move on. And also the tendency not to abandon tasks in the face of obstacles. And if you want to Google the grit scale, you can do it. It's a list of questions, really simple, that measure your level of grit. And we're going to be looking at grit at the conference. And what were the findings? The findings were that high grit ratings allowed students with relatively low College Board scores to achieve high results. In another test, they took 1,200 freshman students ahead of a really grueling summer camp training course, and they used the grit test alongside other evaluations like leadership and how fit you were and how academic you were in your abilities. But the most accurate predictor which gauged which candidates succeeded and didn't give up over this summer course was actually the grit questionnaire, which is all about courage and strength. And even in the UK, the BBC recently published an article featuring Mosbourne High School, which is a school in Hackney in East London, one of the first academy schools, and it's in the top 1% for attainment. And its principal is quoted as saying that Mosbourne used discipline to cultivate an alternative culture, one of aspiration. Interesting. So we know that on average, we report an average gap of 30% between our current and optimum performance. We believe that you can learn to have more grit, and that's what we're going to be doing in our session at the conference in September with the audience. Think about imagine what you could apply, if you could achieve if you apply more courage and grit. And for me, that's that kind of gutsy, adventurous feeling. And if you use that strength with a focused mind every day, you can close that 30% gap, and that's courageous growth mindset. So I'm doing a bit of a sell for the conference, but seriously, it's a fantastic day, and it's completely free. So I really encourage you to book up. So if you want to know more about Courageous Success, you can visit our website, www.courageoussuccess.com. We run experience days, which are completely free throughout the year. The next one is on the 13th of October. They are only for learning and development and HR, otherwise we would just be mobbed by all sorts of people wanting to have free development. But we get you, and if you're in HR, or you can pass this on to your HR and development teams, we put them through aspects of Courageous Success learning. They have an I am profile. We look at business the new way, give them a development experience, and then we also facilitate a networking session where companies can learn from each other. It's a fantastic day. We go outdoors. We're based just south of Grantham in the East Midlands, and just because we're outdoor doesn't mean we slum it. We have great food, as you can see on that photograph too. So if you think that your business can benefit from Courageous Success, let your learning, development and HR teams know that they can have a free Courageous Success event with us.